What's up, party people? Back with another one of these Spellbreak Part 3. Getting into the Gauntlets. As I discussed previously in the first episode, the amount of mana that you use per shot changes depending on not only what element gauntlet you're using, but what tier of said element you're using, with the common version using more mana and doing less damage per tick than the legendary version. In this episode, we're going to start talking about the gauntlets and their elements themselves. And the wind just changed and blew my curtain open. Give me a second. Okay, so I'm back. I decided to get some junk food while I was up. Sorry for the noise. So now what we're starting out with is the frost one. And if you remember from my first video, making general statements about gauntlets, I should have grabbed some water. I'm going to go do that. Hi. So, frost will, if you tap it, it's got, it's essentially got bullet drop. And if it's close enough to the ground it'll basically create a line of frost that you or your enemy will slide around on. And it makes things slightly more difficult. It actually used to slide a lot more in previous builds. And after several seconds, the ice will melt, and you'll get puddles of water. But because you're sending a frosted projectile, it does do impact damage also. But ice is unique. Frost is unique in that you can hold the button down to charge and attack, and it does way more damage. You can also refreeze. See, now this only does one tile of freezing AoE, but because I already had a tile's worth of water here, actually, you know what? I wonder how long that would take to melt. Okay, and just like I thought, okay. So, if you got multiple tiles like that laterally, it'll branch out. There appears to be, I don't know if it's a cone or a sphere of splash around me, but there's definitely some spread out to the side during the actual travel of the projectile itself. And, okay, so now that I've actually got all of these things here, I'm gonna hit my Q since it's attached to the left mouse. Only thing is, the frost ult is gonna manifest with me at the epicenter. It'll flash freeze pretty much everything it touches. And again, it used to slip and slide a lot more, but due to the testing community feedback, they lowered the amount of whatchamahoots. I've got this big area. Let's see what happens when I do this now. Yeah, it looks like the original lion tiles and a tile on each side. Okay, as I said, because I'm doing frost right now, everything that I do is going to involve something freezing first. So, here's flame on frozen area. It makes steam. The steam does damage because it's hot. If you do it on the water, same thing. also does damage. But if you burn ice, it'll melt into water. If you burn water, it evaporates completely. But in either case, it looks like the steam plume is actually bigger. You know what, let me... Here. Here. I don't want them touching, because I don't want them contaminating. When this melts... Actually, this is going to melt first. I'll hit them both. Let me hit this with another one. Okay. Huh. Just before it melted. Okay. Nope. Damn it. There. Here. Yeah, okay, so the water evaporating makes a bigger steam plume, it appears, than the ice being hit with steam and melted. And this holds true for whether you're using the left mouse or the alt. If you're coming across, if you're using, if you're trying to flash freeze somebody or flash freeze the area to sort of do some sort of crowd control and they have fire, you do not want to be you don't want to be in your own puddle, because you will take a massive amount of damage. No. But if you try to create if you try to do some CC with the frost and somebody burns it, you can freeze that. And you can kind of use that as a cover to hide behind, to strategize, to heal. Stone, I believe, doesn't actually do anything. They don't really interact. In fact, stone, I believe, negates melted water. It just... yeah, hold on a second. It totally destroys... Yep, so stone totally destroys. Wind is actually one of my favorite elements. It also will disrupt basically any type of crowd control spell. But it doesn't have an AoE effect, so you have to be precise with it. Wind. Stone is out. Fire. Pick up. Oh. Common toxic. Put that in. Put this here. Okay. So here we got lightning. You can electrify a frozen puddle. You can also electrify a melted puddle, a water puddle. You know, that's common. But it's super interesting. I mean, this is gonna do a lot of damage also. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna Q, refreeze that area. I'm gonna step back here. Now you got a huge frozen area to shock. Doesn't last particularly long though, but it does a huge amount of damage. And then we've got Toxin. Toxic water. So normally, well, I'll get to that when I do Toxin. Let's specifically. If you mix toxin with frost, you can increase the area that poison significantly. I believe it's a 3-tile radius. Let's see if I can. 1, 2. I think these are 4 tiles. I'll put it right here. Oh, it's 2, I guess. Like a 2-tile radius, which is interesting because I did put it mostly. Isn't that 4? I don't know. It's hard to tell. I'm gonna put this here. Yeah, it does look like a 3-tile radius, but I'm not entirely sure. I do know that it's a lot of damage. Well, it would be toxic damage anyway. 5, looks like 5 points every half second almost. Which is more than... Damn, hold on. Wow, okay. So that's it for combinations with frost. Okay. So, this is an impact attack. As you can see, it does 30. This is the common one. As you go up in tier again, it's going to cost less mana, it's going to do more damage. Yes, okay. There is splash damage, but there's no CC, so it's just impact. Impact and splash damage. So there's no way for any other ability to interact with that once it hits the ground. Which means you would either have to rely on other people trying to do CC to you or CC around themselves as a defensive mechanism, a defensive barrier, before you can interact with them using fire, using flame. Now, the fire Q does a firewall, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, it's still 9 blocks wide. But now that you've actually got flame, it can be interacted with. Now, the flame gets put out with frost. And that gives you the opportunity to do that. And as you can see, the AoE effect of the flame, even if the flame doesn't touch it, as long as it gets close enough, it's going to melt the ice into water. And as you can see right there, I actually froze the steam created when the flame hit the water. So, again, I should have put this in the previous video about the frost, but if you try to if you try to do some CC with the frost and somebody burns it, you can freeze that. And you can kind of use that as a cover to hide behind, to strategize, to heal. And the neighbors are yelling at each other again. But of course, as long as they still have mana, they can just steamerize your steam cube. It's pretty cool. Okay. Wind. Drop this. And as you can see, there doesn't seem to be any amount of non-elemental damage that can affect it. My apologies for not remembering that. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Alright, so here's an interesting thing. I've already shown what the stone does. Again, this is impact with no CC. And the same is, it's basically anti-CC. Like, it doesn't have any CC on its own. And the stone is essentially anti-CC. But thing. Alright. When you got your ult up and you do it, stone creates burning fissures. So, if you're trying to use the flame to create a wall to keep yourself safe a little bit, you're gonna have a bad time if somebody's got earth. But if you have earth and flame, it's a fancy little thing here. And as long as you've got the mana to keep this going, you can basically do it indefinitely. And it goes basically as far as the fissure goes. Oops. Oh. So that's fire first, the fire ult, and then stone. So, you've seen the wind. You've seen the fire, again. They're both impact, they're both non-CC. They don't stick around. But wind will put out the flames rather easily too. So, they're not necessarily all that effective. Well, wind is more effective against flame than anything else. However, if you have... Here's something that's super cool and super scary. Fire ult, wind ult. You get a flame NATO. You take damage from both, again, because it's a combination. When you have the actual combination, like there's actual synergy between the two attacks, you take damage from both. So again, impact, but it's a triple hit. Flame. There's no interaction whatsoever. Flames. Instead of the fire, now you've got burning poison. Poisonous flames, rather. Oh. Super, very awesome, very dangerous. Flames do a lot of damage. Poison flames do way more. Toxic, okay. So, here's a stone. Here's the stone ult. You throw a big-ass boulder that gets bigger as it gets closer to its targeting. Shit ton of damage. Now. Neighbor yelling at his dog. The neighbor is now yelling at his dog. One of his dogs. Neighbor is yelling at one of his dogs to get in the house. Okay, so I'm gonna put down frosty thing. I believe I've already shown you this. Okay. And so there's it's spell negation. It just gets rid of the false puddles. It'll do the same thing with water. Get rid of this. Put the flame in. I've already shown you what happens when you mix fire with earth, and I've already shown you what happens when you mix earth with fire. Oops. One thing I thought would be super cool is if when you use the earth ult, the boulder, that it could actually react with the firewall also, but that doesn't appear to be the case. All it does is negate the flame, and it didn't even do that consistently. Well, at the point of impact, it kept the flame going, but that really appears to be it. It's very strange and inconsistent. Okay, so Again, impact, no CC. Impact, no CC. They both do negation. Wind ult. Left mouse. Nothing. Q. Oh shit. I think I took too long. I'm gonna let them both recharge and try again. But also, the Earth ult recharged faster than the Wind ult did, even though I used the Wind ult first. Wind ult. Let's try firing through it. Nope, okay. So I'm going to try that one more time and try to impact at the Cyclone base. Guess what we're going to do is E here, Q right there. Okay, no interaction at all. No negate, no interaction, no nothing. Gonna move on to lightning. I'm fairly certain that unless they change things, there should be no interaction there either. But it's important to know these things ahead of time when you get into combat, since it is a battle royale. It's better to know these things ahead of time. I'm gonna try the shock ult, which is literally a lightning storm. Huh! It creates a burning fissure. That was not how it went in the pre-alpha. Back when I first charted all this stuff out months ago, several months ago, like at least 4 to 6 months ago, that was not a thing. So that's new. So we're learning together. I'm going to try lightning ult again. A little bit of flame. Meh. Definitely not worth the trouble. Though the left click would be useful. Bzz, and then boom. Fucking power wave. Terry Bogard. Toxic, toxic, toxin, toxin, toxin. I believe. It negates. Yeah, it negates. Okay. There's a cloud. Yep, okay, no effect whatsoever. There's no interaction whatsoever between the ults, but the standard toxic puddle will be negated. Actually. Excuse me? The gauntlets obstructed. Okay. Okay. So both stone attacks will negate the toxic puddle. Fucking bullshit. Okay, so you know wind. You know frost. Wind completely shreds frost. Frost puddles. I'm going to start with wind ult and left click. No snow blizzard, unfortunately. That would be cool though. Here's a cool thing also. The wind gauntlet left click you can also use to launch yourself into the air. And you go like twice the height as your double jump. Or so it would seem. Like you can't use your double jump to get up to second story levels. Damn it. But you can with cameras there. With one left mouse click. I've also noticed that it seems to take the longest to wind up an attack with it, but it also rapid fires the fastest. Yeah, it definitely rapid fires the fastest. It appears to be the only element that you can actually run out of mana for before hitting the ground. Especially since you're using it to launch in the air to go much, much higher than you normally would with a double jump. I'll have to try it with a triple jump, though. There's one of the boots, I believe, gives you a triple jump. Might be an amulet. I'll get to that in a later video. So, okay. We're going to do this again. And then no interaction again. Seems to destroy a 2 to 3 block radius. Three block radius, okay. I feel like I started that a little late, so I'm going to try this again just to be certain. Excuse me. Oops. What? Huh. Water got on to this object. Huh. That's interesting. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go right inside. Also, yes, self-harm. It's a tornado. It's a tornado, so you do take damage from it. And if you're within the vacuum range, you will get sucked into the eye of it. It's frost. Frost cannot stop it. Flame. Do this, and then you got fire. Flaming tornado. That lasts literally as long as the tornado does. Then you got the firewall, which I've shown you before. The wind will just put it out. To be fair, the wind element in this game is pretty OP. It negates most CC. I'm going to do this again. And then we'll do the E-ult, which I believe I showed before. It won't put out a flaming tornado, though. But it will put out the flames. Stone. I'm not even going to bother showing you that, because both stone attacks are impact. There's no CC, there's no sustain. Left mouse, right mouse. I'm going to go straight for this with the left click. Now you got an electrified tornado, where the shock vanishes slightly before the tornado does. Now we're going to go this. Nothing. Well, I mistimed that. As powerful as the thunderstorm is, it's super, super short. So I'm going to try this a little bit. not available yet. I should have waited. I'm gonna go up there for this one. So you can get a better look. Basically the same thing as what I did before, except the thunderstorm itself is bigger now. So it's lightning, and toxin. I think I've shown you this before. Wind negates. If you want to get tricky, you can have multiple gauntlets and trigger something like this and then switch to something else to create something even bigger. Like a flaming, an electrified toxic flame, for example, or electrified steam. Totally doable. You just have to be... The two things you have to remember is that the time, the duration for each effect, the duration of each specific thing is in and of itself. When you add a secondary effect to it, I think the duration still depends. It depends on the element, but will sometimes reset to have a longer duration, like with the frozen steam, for example. The frozen steam, when it finally does dissipate, will be left with either normal steam from the evaporated water, or it'll just be water itself. And then the water has its own duration. So if you want to do something extra for that, you can. Like for an extra effect. Like, you put down a frost puddle, frozen puddle, and then you hit that with steam, and then you swap to the lightning gauntlet and throw that, and now you've got electrified steam. Or you throw down frost and then the lightning to create an electrified ice puddle, and then you hit that with flame, you get electrified steam again. But the duration is going to depend on the combination of elements. And I'm not going to go through the trouble of finding out what those are individually, because there are several combinations. Right, okay. So, you keep going with this thing. And now you've got a toxic tornado. Neighbor is still yelling at his dog to get back in the house. The dog's name is Oliver. This dog's name is Oliver. They've got other dogs that they also yell at to get back in the house when they leave out the front door. This one is Oliver. And now there are two of the neighbors out there yelling at that same dog. And I think the second dog also got out. So now there's two dogs not in the house being yelled at by two people. Sometimes they yell at the dogs, sometimes they yell at each other. I have no choice but to know the dogs' names. Right, okay, so now we're going to start with this one. Aha, okay. So if you do the toxic plume, the toxic ult, and then do the wind ult, totally negates it. That's important to remember, the distinction between which one you do first, like I said. Now we do the left click. Look at that. Nullified it in 3 hits. Wind is OP. Okay, so here we are. Starting the lightning. We've seen the triple hit. 9, 18, and 9, in case you can't see that first number. 9, 18, 9. And I believe when you get up to the legendary, it doubles. I'm only using the common ones right now, because it doesn't really matter. 9, 18, 9. As long as you're within the effective range of the shot itself, you should get full damage. Unless they have an item that gives them some amount of immunity. So, Here we have a puddle that you can electrify. Here you have ice that you can electrify. Let's see if I can get over here before this thing evaporates. Not exactly sure how many blocks. Looks like it's only 2. But this, yeah, it's only 2. Let's see if I can go for the middle here. 2 block radius. There you go. If you hit it right in the middle, you can electrify that entire area. Essentially, the entire area. Also, I'm bugging. Do that. Nope, we're gonna do this. See how it continues? The duration, I think, reset because I refroze the electrified water. Still doesn't last long because electrocution doesn't last long, which is good because it does a lot of damage and it has a stunning effect, which makes you go like in basically any other video game, but it actually slows your movement down. So it's good that it's not too strong. Q. So you got this huge area, which is about the same area as the blizzard. A lot of damage, very difficult to get away from, especially if you freeze the area to make everything all slippery and shit. Ooh! The ice does expand the area of the shock, like you saw outside of that electrified circle. This white spot right here, this frozen spot, still got me shocked. So beware of that. I keep looking over there, the camera's here. It's hard for me to focus on it because it's dark underneath this upper shelf. And impact. So we're going to start with Q. And then we're going to right mouse. Nothing really. So now we're going to let that recharge. Actually, no, don't have to. We're going to do this, and then we're going to left mouse. As you can see. Pretty sure I stated before that there was no real interaction. So now we're going to let both of them recharge. And do bolt bolts with fire first. As you can see, the flame wall did take on some charge, but seemed rather useless. So there's no real interaction between those two. You get the flames like before, just like you did with fire. Let that recharge. Nothing great. Nothing to write home about. Wind. They both impact. How much does this do? Oh, too far. 10. Okay. So we're going to start with Q. Not a lot of. We're going to do E, and then we're going to left mouse into that. Electrified tornado, which I believe I showed before in the wind video. And just to make sure that I'm being thorough. I'm going to do Q and then E. Q. And then I'm going to do E and then Q. Essentially the same thing. Same interaction. No negation. Not sure what element combination I would take into combat myself. This is really fucked up though. Toxic Puddle, and now Electrified. But this lasts a fairly decent amount of time. And I'll show you later in a different video what some of the augmentations can do with stuff like this and how truly overpowered your character can become. So we're gonna go Q, and left mouse. It ignites the poison. Oh, doesn't last long though. So you'll get poisonous electrified flames. Very, very briefly, you'll mostly take damage from the lightning itself. Still a bad time. Now I'm gonna do this. Left mouse. And now you've got an electrified poison cloud. Good times. I can hit it twice. 3 times. 4 times. 5 times. 6 times. Jesus Christ. So the poison cloud seems to be resetting its duration. I guess because the electrocution is non-destructive like flame would be, or wind. Holy shit. You could just do this indefinitely. You really, really could. Doing the ult though creates flames, and that will destroy it. But if you just keep left mousing with the lightning on the poison cloud, you can just leave it there indefinitely. I don't remember if that was a thing before. Okay, so here we go, left mouse. So that's what it looks like when you actually give it a lot of space. Like the further away you send the puddles, the more spread out they are. And they each take up exactly 1 tile. So you can have up to a 4 tile spread that are right next to each other if you space it right. So anyway, so here's Frost, which I'm sure you've seen already. It freezes it, so it's no longer dangerous. And we'll slip and slide. But I'd also like to point out Q. You can negate it. No, not negate it, but freeze it. You can make it inert. And if you re-ult, Jesus Christ, is that bigger? This I was unaware of. I never actually tried this before. After a while, the freezing disappears. You can refreeze it before left click no longer does anything. This other one is gonna... I want to send it straight through and see what happens. Okay, so it stops. This becomes an obstruction. Oops. Oh well. Great. Okay. So now I'm gonna do this. Come over here and I'm gonna left click. You see that happens? You basically, it melts the ice and makes it toxic puddle. It doesn't last long though. It appears as if the toxic cloud doesn't last as long when you've made it over ice as opposed to when you just have it by itself. But, wait, does it go away? I don't remember if it leaves a toxic puddle behind or not. Okay, so it doesn't last very long. So I was literally resetting the duration for the toxic cloud every time I left clicked it with lightning. So you can do that. And if it happens to be in a place like a building that doesn't have a way out and you're stuck, or if you've got somebody else trapped inside there and you do that, you can trap them in there if they don't have a way to negate your electric poison cloud. So, like that. Flame. You've seen, just to reiterate, burn a puddle to make flames. Burn the cloud to make a huge flame. Weapon charge. Giant flame and a burning wall. This, for some reason, got negated. Weird. So while you have the wall... Oops. But, as you can see, the flame didn't last as long once it was hit with toxin. Oh, look. It's actually on the wall. Didn't know. I don't remember if that was a thing before. So if you got somebody hiding behind a corner and you want to do like a bank shot, and it'll ignite. If it's close enough, I believe. Charge, and yep, it'll ignite the whole thing. That's crazy. And that's super fucking dangerous if you're, if the person doing that has some of the items I'm gonna get to in a later video. Just reiterate, stone negates. Stone ult. Son of a bitch. Well, it negates also. And you really can't combine them anyway. Nothing. Oh, just doing the wrong thing. Try that again. This one. Wind again. Most things have a weakness for wind. Flames. Frost. Lightning doesn't. Toxin does. Like half of the things. 1, 2, 3. And it's done. We're gonna let that charge up again. Actually, I'm gonna left click here. Put the tornado on top. It totally overpowers it. But if you got the tornado going first, you can do that. We're gonna let the tornado recharge, and then we're gonna try a plume. 1. Totally negates it. Okay. I'm not sure what element combination I would take into combat myself. This is really fucked up though. Toxic puddle, and now electrified. But this lasts a fairly decent amount of time. And I'll show you later in a different video what some of the augmentations can do with stuff like this and how truly overpowered your character can become. So we're gonna go Q and left mouse. It ignites the poison. Oh, doesn't last long though. So you'll get poisonous electrified flames. Very, very briefly, you'll mostly take damage from the lightning itself. Still a bad time. Now I'm gonna do this. Left mouse. Now you've got an electrified poison cloud. Good times. You can hit it twice. 3 times. 4 times. 5 times. 6 times. Jesus Christ. So the poison cloud seems to be resetting its duration. I guess because the electrocution is non-destructive like flame would be, or wind. Holy shit. You could just do this indefinitely. You really, really could. Doing the ult though creates flames, and that will destroy it. But if you just keep left mousing with the lightning on the poison cloud, you can just leave it there indefinitely. I don't remember if that was a thing before. That's going to do it for this Gauntlets tutorial. And next thing I'm going to do is we'll get into the belts. If you're interested in the game, again, look it up on in the Epic store, because it's not going to be available on Steam to anyone looking to buy it. Like, comment, subscribe, click the bell icon, join my Discord, and enjoy your day.